Hey everyone, welcome to week 22, day 4. This is our ongoing When to Stop week. And I think that today we're actually going to do something a little bit different, at least different for me, because I think I'm going to leave a painting in a stage where I would definitely feel that there would be room for the painting to grow, to develop. But I want to grant myself the right to just say, this looks amazing, let me learn from it. And, we're just going to do 5 paintings this week where we let ourselves just let paintings be at this stage. So, we can grant ourselves that right. So let's see how we do today. Okay, let's get started. Now, for today, I thought I would do something a little bit different. This is our ongoing When to Stop week. And I think for the past 3 days, I've been approaching painting in a way that is not posing a lot of problems for me. I mean, yesterday I was frustrated because I just couldn't get my drawing right. That was the extent of my frustration, the fact that I just couldn't get Samu's gesture quite right. But I really wasn't feeling I was pushing myself to try and leave a painting at a stage where I initially just don't see it as something that has the potential it actually inherently has. So I thought to myself, well, today let's try to do something a little bit looser, and instead of just rushing to get a lot of stuff down, a lot of definitive stuff down, which is, I think, what I've kind of done in the past 3 days, let's try to see if I could suspend my painting at a level, at a stage where it's not really going to be about resolution. At least that's what I thought. And we'll see how that goes. But regarding yesterday's painting, I really felt that I was trying to get the painting to have a character of freshness, of spontaneity, of liveliness. But I do feel that I push myself so that I can quickly resolve something. So instead of thinking that these paintings are going to be left at a stage that I would consider one of my initial stages in terms of the formal development of the painting, instead of doing that, I think what I end up doing is just kind of upping my game and saying, okay, I have 2 hours where I have to paint very quickly, very definitively. So just make every single choice count. And even though the painting is going to have this freshness to it, almost lightness to it, lightness not in terms of paint quality, but just in terms of immediacy. Even though that is my mindset, I feel that I'm also, way in the back of my mind, I'm also thinking, okay, I need to reach something with this initial stage. So I'm kind of battling, trying to figure out how to get that out of my mind, how to get rid of that notion. Because I am painfully aware of what it means to reach a moment in the painting where I feel satisfied. And that's what I usually equate with solving something. That feeling that you're there. I don't know how to express what there, quote unquote, means, because it usually has to do with an intent, but that intent can actually morph into a ton of different things while you're painting. That's the most important part about being constantly on and acknowledging every decision you make in your painting, because if your initial intent is changing constantly because you are responding to what your painting is actually telling you to do, you have to be mindful of that. You have to be able to recognize those things and actually change everything while you're working. Adapt and adjust constantly while you're painting. I think that is the basis of every painting. I don't want this to seem like we can't have a very specific objective, a very tangible objective, and we work really hard with our studies and with our drawings and with our design and composition to try and get close to that idea that we have taken so much time to design and construct. Yeah, we can do that. That's absolutely fine. That is the way many paintings have been painted throughout history. You have a previous idea that you've worked really hard to balance out, and then you just execute it. And in the execution, there may be some changes, but they are usually very slight changes. What I feel very comfortable doing is just understanding that, yes, I do have an intent. I do have a direction that I want my painting to follow, but there's also a willingness to say, wow, I thought I was going to do this. I thought my painting was going to be about this. And now I'm noticing that everything that I'm doing while I'm painting is telling me to go to a different direction. And maybe that different direction doesn't have to feel uncomfortable. It doesn't have to mean that you're betraying your initial intent. It doesn't mean that you are taking the easy road out. It just means that your painting is alive and that something is happening while you're painting, and that you're just paying attention to it. So it's not as if we're powerless. We could impose ourselves and forcefully drive solely in that lane, that one path that we had carved for our painting. We can do that. That is the way many works of art are constructed. But we can also feel that this is a very organic, creative act where we're not supposed to just impose our beliefs onto this work, but that while we're working, there's also a ton of stuff, a ton of dynamics that are happening, and that they answer back to our actions. And many times they ask us to adapt and adjust. I really felt that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday's painting, I was just working based on my strengths, and that I was pushing a little bit too much, trying to impose my way of painting, my way of understanding paint onto this painting, and then just leaving it at a very fresh stage. And I was trying to simplify, and I wanted those choices to be evident in my quote unquote final painting. So, in a way, my intentions were there, but I think that the willingness to just have this painting be something that I would consider resolute was almost winning over the essence of the exercise, which is just to put something down and just let it be and think of the qualities that are inherent to that moment where you're just supposed to react, where your decisions are based on expressive reactions. I think that, yes, there's certainly that quality in the paintings of Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But today I was like, okay, I'm going to purposely do something vague. I'm going to try to do something that is actually taking away my footing, because instead of having this almost preconceived idea of what I can do with form, I'm going to put myself in situations where I don't really know how to ground my painting. So I just really have to pay attention to everything that I'm doing. Now, here comes the cool part. The most amazing thing that happened today is that I was working towards something which I really felt I was understanding. And I was taking the painting down a road where I thought I understood what my painting was going to look like. And while I was painting, even initially, even at the start of the painting, I was like, okay, this is not feeling right. This is not quite working. I kind of understand what I want to do with color, but it's not really showing up. Like, my decisions are not really showing up. The relationships that I want from all these brushstrokes charged with color, they're not doing much. They're not really configuring form the way I had envisioned it would. And that's a very frustrating thing when you think that you understand your painting, when you think that you understand the steps that you have to take to actually execute a painting. You have your paints ready, you have your brushes ready, you're almost painting the painting in your mind, and then you start painting and you realize that there is a disconnect between what you thought was going to happen and what is actually happening. And the saddest part is that many times we don't know how to gauge that. We don't know how to adapt based on that. We can recognize it. Sometimes we're like, okay, this isn't working, but we don't know how to fix it. We don't know what to do then, because our mind is telling us, well, you had set this road for yourself, and it seems like that road was sort of paved on your previous experiences, so you convince yourself that you had an idea of how to go about it, but suddenly when it doesn't work, it's almost like you're left powerless. It's almost like you have no other tools in your arsenal, and you don't really know what to do. And that's exactly what happened with this painting. You know, you're probably going to see the transformation, quote unquote, of the painting near the end of the video, but I'll tell you right now, I'll spoil it. There was a point in the painting where I was telling Danny, I don't like this painting. I don't like it. And the way we usually record the painting session is that we record in 29, 28-minute sessions. So I always have like a good idea of how I'm doing based on the amount of times we've had to pause and then start the recording again. And nearing the end of this painting, I was already conscious of how much I had put down which, for this very kind of fresh, quick painting wasn't that much. But when you're so totally concentrated, it's almost like painting on steroids. It just feels like every choice that you're putting down has to count. So you're putting a ton of pressure and a ton of energy into those choices. And I had been feeling that for a bunch of those sessions. And nearing the end, I told Danny, no, this isn't working. This isn't working. It's frustrating. It just isn't working. I'm just putting paint down. I'm just trying to construct this very expressive portrait, but I still have ways to go with everything else that's surrounding this portrait. But if I can't hit the quality that I want with the portrait, the character, the very, very specific character, then nothing else is going to work. Nothing, absolutely nothing else is going to work with the painting, because I wanted the portrait to have some sort of grounding, and then everything else, everything that was surrounding that portrait, I wanted it to kind of slowly deconstruct itself, to slowly abstract itself. And in some areas, I was going to abstract it through just masses of color, and in other areas I thought I would introduce just drawing marks, just very evident construction marks, but I didn't want those marks to be completely explicit. So I wanted the whole painting to be up in the air. And the reason I was doing that was because, like I explained, I thought that I was imposing myself a little too much on the first 3 paintings of this week. I was just pushing too much, and I was just rushing myself and just trying to reach the finish line quicker instead of going slow or going in a very methodical, thoughtful way in the initial stages of the painting and then just leaving it. I thought what I was doing was just like pushing, and just telling myself that I would have to almost rush to the finish line instead of being very, very conscious of every step that I was taking. So for this one, I thought I'm going to leave everything kind of up in the air. I'm going to construct this atmosphere, and then I'm going to slowly model this head. And when this head is just slightly hinted at, I'm going to leave it. That was my plan. But like an idiot, I just didn't follow my plan. Because what I did was I started with the head. So everything else that had to be important, that had to almost hold that head together, wasn't even in my painting when I started modeling that head. Those relationships were not even established. So that's a reminder that there's sometimes, many times, a complete disconnect between you telling yourself what you're trying to do. Like I was totally pumping myself up, just telling myself, okay, I know how to attack this painting. It's just a matter of doing it. But then as soon as you start painting, there are so many distractions within a painting. We succumb to them. For me, I love the way we can understand ourselves through a portrait, ourselves as human beings. So I'm always attracted to that which conveys our humanity. And instead of just telling myself, okay, just save that for last, that's going to be cherry on top, that's going to be like your payday, that's going to feel like an awesome moment if you just build everything towards that. In my mind, I was telling myself, just hit that portrait, just, kind of hit it out of the park with a very simple approach, and then do everything else. And it wasn't happening. And because I didn't follow what my instinct was telling me to do, what happened was that I was left with a painting that was supposed to be constructed in one way, and I betrayed that, and I was just focusing on one area for way, way too long. And I was just laboring over it. And I realized those decisions, all that work, just wasn't doing anything. And it wasn't doing anything in the sense that it wasn't getting me closer to what I wanted to say. And when I realized that, and again, this is nearing the end, I was very, very frustrated because I think painting takes a lot out of me. It could be, 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever it is, but it takes a ton out of me. There are some paintings that you could be working for an hour, and they're so intense that if you're not taking the steps that you're supposed to take, oh my God, it is torture. It is one of the toughest things to endure when you are just fighting with a painting and you see no way out. And at one point, I was like, yep, this is it. I'm done. I don't like this. I just really, really don't like it. And Danny came by, and I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm absolutely done. And I took my palette knife, and I scraped the painting. And I scraped everything that I'd been working on for, I don't know, maybe 3 of those sessions, so probably over an hour and a half. And the act of scraping, I wish I could say it was just one of the tools that I have that I know may work when you are frustrated in a painting, where you can just go back to a sense of wholeness. This wasn't the case. This wasn't me acknowledging that, yes, this is the act of taking paint away, of scraping paint off, is as valuable as putting paint down, as valuable as brushstrokes. No, no, no. This was the equivalent of me throwing the painting in the garbage can. This was just me saying, I am done. I can't paint this. I thought I could, but I just can't. So I scraped it. And the moment I scraped it, I wish I could tell you this was intentional. I really do, because I would feel like an absolute genius, but no. I was feeling very frustrated and very stupid. As soon as I scraped it, Danny was like, okay, we'll stop recording and that's it. Don't worry. That's fine. We'll paint something else tomorrow or this afternoon. It doesn't matter. And I looked at it and I was like, no. There's something there. Like something happened. And it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. All the choices that I had made, all this struggling that I had made on this surface, maybe superficially, it wasn't telling the story, but the story was actually taking place underneath the paint layer where my substrate, my linen, was actually absorbing all these tiny decisions, all these little decisions that I was just laboring over. And it's almost like it was filtering them. It was actually keeping the important ones. And all the other ones, it was like, okay, those belong to the surface. It doesn't matter. I'm going to keep what's important. And when I saw the stained canvas, because that's all it is, it's like a stained piece of canvas, I was like, this is incredible. This is it. That's exactly the moment that I was looking for. But I just didn't know how to look for it. And honestly, I would have felt very stupid if I knew that what I had to do was paint, and then I would scrape. And then as if it was a technique. I don't like to do paintings like that. I think that that's a little too superficial. This was an act of me giving up. This was literally just me saying, I can't do this anymore. I just can't. I don't know what I'm doing. I thought I did. Nothing is working. I'm done. But once I saw it, because that's the important part. The part where you try to recognize your intention and you try to execute it is something that we all do. You know, we all try to say, okay, why am I painting this? And how am I going to go about doing it? And, you know, maybe in the end we are close to what we intended, or maybe in the end we're not. We're super far from what we had hoped our painting to be. But our painting will never, ever be a failure if we are willing to always acknowledge what we're doing at that moment and what is happening at that moment, at that precise moment. So instead of me being furious with my painting and scraping it off and then putting it to the side and throwing it in the bin, I looked at it and I said, oh my God, look what my painting is actually giving back. It's almost like it was saying, I needed for you to have an hour and a half, 2 hours of frustration just so that I could give you this back. Just so that I could answer back with this. And I loved it. I was so grateful with my painting that it actually answered back with something that was so much closer to what I wanted. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, forget this. Of course I'm going to keep painting. And I kept on painting, and I kind of loosely surrounded this amazing, expressive portrait with all the other moments that were really quite relevant to the painting too, but they had to be abstracted in a way. But now it was just fun because I had the perfect moment of the painting to play it off against. I wish I could say that this happens constantly. It doesn't. Truth is, it doesn't. It really doesn't. Many times we think we know what we're doing. We try to execute our plan. We look at our painting. It sucks. We scrape it off. And it looks horrible. And it looks like a muddy mess. And that's what we have left after a day's worth of painting. And we have to pick ourselves up the next day and say, okay, let's try to do this again. That's what painting usually feels like. Today, painting was very nice to me. And it gave me something back that I really appreciated. And it almost reminded me that the essence of this week was about that. So I think, you know, for now, we are almost like 1 out of 4. We are batting .250 for this week. But the important part is that we got there. I usually tell people, you know, in a sketchbook, you sometimes fill up a sketchbook just so that you can have one good drawing in it. You almost have to do every single page of that sketchbook so that when you close it down, you have one good drawing. And maybe sometimes you have to fill two sketchbooks to have two good drawings. And they could be the last two drawings of the second sketchbook. So it's very disheartening. It can be very, very tiring when you think about it. But today, it was good. It was very, very good. And it brought us closer to what I had hoped this week to be. We're going to see if we can try to approach tomorrow's painting in a slightly different way too, because I don't want for this to be kind of techniquey. I don't want tomorrow to be painting and to say, you know what, I'm going to scrape it and magic is going to happen. No, no, no. Let's not kill this very beautiful moment. What happened today was super, super nice. I don't want it to happen again. I want this painting to be kind of special. So we're going to try something different tomorrow. That was it for today. It ended with a smile. It was labor. It was very, very painful, but we got through it. Thank you guys for hanging out, and we'll see how we do tomorrow. Bye.